Today, I'm diving into the wild world of private investigation surveillance as I take a close look at the challenges involved in tracking down and surveilling some of the most dangerous surveillance targets out there. The private investigations business is a profession that requires utmost care and attention to detail, especially when dealing with surveillance targets that can pose a significant threat to your safety and well-being. As private investigators, it is also essential that we are aware of those potential dangers that come with the job and to take necessary precautions to avoid putting ourselves and others at risk. Dealing with volatile subjects is an unfortunate reality that private investigators face far too often. These individuals can be unpredictable, aggressive, and sometimes even violent, making it crucial for investigators to be on high alert at all times. Now, not only do we face the risk of physical harm, but we also risk being caught, getting burned, getting made, which can lead to legal repercussions and damage to our reputation. And let's not forget the psychological toll of dealing with these volatile subjects. The stress, the anxiety, the constant looking over our shoulders. It's a heavy burden to carry for sure, and one that should not be taken lightly. Take, for instance, a case I had a while back. I was hired to track down an individual involved in a domestic case. Sounds like a straightforward job, right? The problem was that this wasn't your regular, everyday dude going through a contentious divorce. The investigation took a dark turn when I realized that this guy was also a fugitive. Yep, he had multiple warrants out and was wanted by law enforcement. And to top it off, he was also a two-time convicted felon, convicted of some serious assault charges to include assaulting law enforcement. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Now, my clients, the parents of the target's soon-to-be ex-wife, wanted several things. First off, they wanted to know if he was in the area or not. They also wanted to know if he was back to using drugs and drinking all of the time. You see, part of his bond when he was released from jail was to not do any drugs or drink alcohol. In fact, he couldn't even be around the stuff. Now, he had already violated the bond requirements by failing to appear at a preliminary hearing. So if we were able to prove he had further violations, it would help ensure that he would not be able to bond out again so easily. And they also wanted him served with divorce papers from the court, which, well, it might seem fairly simple, but given the guy's past history as well as his current circumstances, I wasn't willing to just rush up to him and serve him once I did find him. The first task on hand, though, was finding him, and this was no easy chore to be sure. When you're trying to find someone who has warrants and has a history of bad interactions with law enforcement, I can guarantee you they will not be easy to find. We had to take some extraordinary measures in finding this guy, but first we had to do all of the usual stuff. You know, things like running him in our super secret PI databases. This gives us an idea of what vehicles he may be associated with, what type of work he has done in the past, who are his associates and relatives, and a list of their addresses as well, past criminal history. Before we go out and start searching, though, we also did a full OSINT, open source intelligence investigation, to try to find photos of him and associates as well to see if we could identify potential places he may go. Once we had all of this in place, we were ready to hit the streets and start searching for him, but we had another precaution we needed to do to ensure we were safe. For every town that we were going to, we also notified the local police department of what we were doing. Now, normally, I don't disclose who I'm trying to find or surveil with anyone, including the police, but because of the outstanding warrants, I wanted to make sure they knew the circumstances of the case due to the fact that if we found the subject, we would be contacting them to do two things. First, we wanted the police to take the target into custody. As private investigators, we have no authority in doing that. We also wanted them to help us effect the service of process for the divorce papers, and this can be a little tricky. You see, most police officers do not want to get involved in domestic situations as well. We wanted to ensure he was personally served the documents. So we established surveillance at several locations where he thought he could be laying his head. We had observed associated vehicles at 2 of these locations, and the third one we knew was a relative that he was known to visit often. We got lucky on the first day with this one and saw him fairly early as he and one of his buddies went outside to work on one of his cars. We then made contact with the police, who then contacted the sheriff's office to help them with the arrest, and they agreed to help us get the guy served if possible. So when the cops arrived, they took the guy by total surprise, got him cuffed, got him in the back of a car, then they let one of us go up and serve him the paperwork. I love it when a plan comes together, don't you? But they don't always work out so smoothly. These can be just as dangerous and even more unpredictable, to be sure. You simply never know when they might snap. So, staying covert, aware, and alert is a must. We had another case where we were surveilling a guy who would fall into this dangerous category. On the outside, he seemed pretty normal. He had a job, he had a wife, had a couple of kids, a dog, and he owned his own house. Now, the fun twist with this case is that we were hired by several of his neighbors to try to document some of his odd behaviors. He tended to come outside from time to time yelling at them, or sometimes yelling at nobody because he thought someone was watching him inside his house. The police had been involved on several occasions, but there was not much that they could do except warn him about disturbing the peace. So they wanted us to see if we could observe this activity, document this activity, and then provide proof to the police about the activity so they could pursue the matter. Again, we started the case doing the normal background stuff, OSINT investigations, and all that jazz. And to be truthful, we thought this would be fairly normal surveillance. Our investigator was scheduled to do 5 nights of surveillance on the guy. These were all scheduled back to back, which is something I generally prefer to not do. But the clients were adamant about doing it this way, and they were able to help us out. Sort of. The neighbors were more than happy to let us park in their driveways to do the surveillance. This was necessary as the HOA did not allow overnight street parking. Well, this went well for the first few nights. Then one night the subject came out, started screaming at who knows who or what knows what, then went back inside after his wife came out and talked to him. The next night got even stranger and more dangerous. This night he came out, walked right over to our investigator's car and started screaming about the FBI watching him. Now, kudos to our PI. He just remained calm, stayed still, and just filmed it all. He had dark windows and window blackouts too, so he was fairly confident the guy couldn't see him inside the car. The subject had just taken notice of 2 things. First, a new car in the neighborhood, and secondly, this neighbor had never parked a car in the driveway before. We know this because as he was screaming, he made statements about these things. Again, his wife came out and somewhat calmed him down and got him to go back home. But that was after all of the neighbors were outside and after the police were called. When the police arrived, our investigator was able to share the video with them, and they were able to use it as proof to summons him for disturbing the peace. We also suggested for all of the neighbors to get security cameras too to help document if this happened again. Now, this was a while ago. It was long before the times like now where everyone has some sort of security camera on their house. They were able to document further activities like this, and eventually the HOA was able to take legal actions and force him to sell and move out. Other types of cases you need to watch out for are ones that involve people that are known associates of organized crime. I never take on any of these. We have received calls in the past from individuals like this, but we just don't take them due to the safety factors as well as many other factors. We also try to steer clear of cases that involve drug dealers and human trafficking too. We have taken on these types of cases in the past, but they get quite complicated and can take a ton of time and resources, not to mention the safety risks and emotional tolls on the investigators. We had one case where a grandmother had hired us to find her juvenile granddaughter. The grandparents had custody of her, and all they knew was that she had a new boyfriend and she ran away with him. Now, they lived in another state, but they thought she was here because of things that her friends had told the police. But that was just hearsay, and no one had any real hard evidence or leads to follow. When we got involved, we interviewed as many of her friends, teachers, police officers, anyone that had contact as we could. When we got involved, we interviewed as many of her friends as we could, teachers, police officers, anyone that had contact with her, and we were able to get a little bit of information. One of her friends had received a text one time from her several months prior from a phone number she didn't recognize. We were able to track that number to a guy here in Colorado, but he wasn't the boyfriend. He did, however, have some criminal history, but we also found out that he was a CI, a confidential informant for a local police department. I then contacted the police chief there, who put me in contact with the officer who worked with the CI, and he was able to talk to the guy and get some names of possible guys the girl might be with. We then started some heavy surveillance on two of these subjects, and after some time, we were able to locate her. But that is when it got even more complicated. The police here were not able to really do anything because the girl had no warrants. And the way Colorado handles runaways, especially for minors that are 16 or 17 years old, is completely different than many other states. So we sat for quite a while doing surveillance while we waited for the police in the other states to come up with a warrant for her. This eventually came in the form of truancy from school, which I know is minor, but it gave the police here reason to help us. They were able to get her out of that situation, which, by the way, was not a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship any longer. The guys holding her at this residence were charged with several felonies, including providing dangerous drugs to a minor, kidnapping, and human trafficking, just to name a few. And I am happy to say they won't have any opportunities out here in the free world to perpetrate those crimes for many decades. So what can you do to avoid these dangerous situations? First, it is essential for us to be aware of our limitations and know when to walk away from a case. If the whole thing feels a little off or too risky, it's better to err on the side of caution and decline the job. I know this might mean losing out on some revenues, but it's better than losing your life.